Nico Kleynhans as we go live on our Facebook and YouTube. Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, and morning to the listeners. We get at Northwood a couple of thousand people responding to these various broadcasts. And often people have stories, and these broadcasts come from those stories. And this morning, the broadcast comes from two people who came to me with stories, real stories. Both of them are Christians, obviously, and they didn't have good experiences as entrepreneurs. And they were wondering what it was that they did wrong. That was how it was put to me. The first was a family that had a reasonably large home, and while the kids were growing up, that home was fine. And as the kids grew up and left home, the parents were now left with a home that was empty, and that home also had a granny flat. And so they thought, we can no longer afford to remain in this home. We need to get some kind of income from it. And so why not let the granny flat? They thought that was a good idea, and we're Christians, so let's find a Christian family to live in the granny flat.
Makes sense.
The Christian family actually came from the same congregation. So it seemed like a wonderful idea. After 3 months, the family paid late. By the end of the year, the family stopped paying completely.
Sure.
And so they had a come to Jesus meeting when they said, no, we really need to deal with this. And the family said, it's quite simple. We can't afford to pay the rent. You've got more money than we have. And it seems to us that the Christian thing to do is for you to let us stay for free.
Sure.
It took another year to get that family to leave.
Yo.
So they tried a second time. And the same thing happened. Now they can't afford to try a third time, and they're probably going to have to sell their home because they can't keep doing this. They can't afford on the money they have to have an asset that's not generating an income at all. And so they are forced now to get rid of that asset, find an alternative accommodation, and hope that their money is going to be enough. Another listener came to me and said, I need to start a business. And I announced to my network, which is a Christian network, that I am going to start a business. And two things happened. Firstly, a lot of people expected me to get discounts. And the discounts were such that I couldn't get a profit anymore. And then some of those who used my services not only expected the discount, but they didn't pay.
What?
Or they paid late.
Yeah.
And that meant that my business is now going to fail and I can't pay my staff. So again, that leads to problems. And we then have to ask ourselves, well, does this mean that we are making a mistake when we try and advertise ourselves as a Christian business? Does this mean there's something we don't understand about being Christians in business? And so I went to look again at what Jesus said. There are parables that Jesus tells. And it's important from those parables that in those three parables where it deals with making a profit, Christ tells us parables that making a profit is acceptable. So we cannot say, if you're a Christian, you can't run your business and make a profit. What Christ is clear on is the story of Zacchaeus. You can't exploit people. And so when he gathered those tax collectors together who now wanted to join, he said, you've got to stop exploiting and you need to fix what you've done wrong. So I think we need to understand clearly that we can, as Christians, make a profit. We can't, as Christians, exploit people. There is a big difference. So what then is a fair price? That's where the challenge comes in. That's what we have to work on. My suggestion is that if we are Christians, it may be an idea for us to join a Christian network. And let's then talk about these issues. What is a fair price? How do we respond when people don't want to pay? What is it that we can do? But we need to be talking about this more. And maybe in those networks, we also need to be looking at Scripture more carefully so that we can understand how we can develop our business in a model that has Christian values and can still make a difference to society. So, folks, there are many Christian networks out there. Don't fight this battle on your own. Find those networks, get involved in those networks, and make sure that your value system complies with Scripture. Have a good day.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nico. So on point. And I mean, there are some amazing businesses and amazing Christian business networks that we would really encourage you to be a part. But thank you so much for highlighting that for us this morning, Nico. There we go. Nico Kleynhans on